Unlike other automakers, we at Ford don't think you should need a 20-minute tutorial to open your glove box. So we made our technology easy to use by making our vehicles available with Blue Cruise hands-free driving, Sync 4, and the Ford Pass app. And the best part? They just work. Built for America. Built Ford proud.
Optional features listed.
10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
You have entered Untold Radio AM. And now broadcasting from a secret location, your hosts, Joel Sturgis and Doug Hychak. And good evening, everybody. Sorry for that delay there. My board was hiccuping just a little bit. Welcome to Untold Radio AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Doug Hychak, or maybe we should call him Skipper Doug Hychak. And we're going to be having a great show for you tonight, though. It's really going to be a rocking show. We're going to be talking with one of the coolest guys. Carl Marshall's going to be talking with us tonight, UK biologist and assistant director for the Center of Fortean Zoology. I don't know what Fortean or how does that pronounce, Doug? Fortean. There we go. Zoology. Gotcha. And he is going to be joining us from the UK. We're going to be talking all about Bigfoot. Now, my conversations with him before the show, this is the first time that he's ever spoken about hominids publicly on a radio show. So that'll be a lot of fun. And you're not going to miss that. That's the bottom of the hour. But getting back to what I was talking about, Mr. Skipper over there, a.k.a. Doug Hychak, has Yes. You have a boat story, and he is the skipper of the high seas that he just calls the lake. The ultimate. Better than the Titanic. Better than the USS Minnow. Okay, well, that's good. That's good. Yep, I know that, and it's just called the lake. Oh, no, not good. Okay. That's not good. That's not good at all. Right in your boat. Right on your boat. Mm-hmm.
And they leave it. And then my lake starts draining.
Oh.
So now my boat is landlocked. It's literally a 1-ton boat sitting on sand or silt or mud. And I'm like, oh my God, this has been now 3 years. I still can't use my boat.
So, for all those just tuning in, we were having a slight technical hiccup and they missed part of your story, Doug.
What?
Yeah, nothing. It's already fixed. Don't worry about it. Just a hiccup. One of the listeners got a hold of me. They said, hey, we can't hear Doug. And so I simply hit a button and fixed the problem. So,
Oh, no.
for everybody that's coming in, Doug, our intrepid skipper of the lake, he gets a new pontoon boat after it's destroyed by one storm. He goes up to Grand Rapids on an epic voyage to get another USS Doug.
Yes.
Brings it back. A freak storm hits again, taking out your fair lady once more.
Yeah, in one day. Just
in one day.
To use it.
Your insurance company must have loved you at this point.
Oh, they hated me.
They hated you. They're angry.
Anyhow,
so what happened?
But it goes beyond this. So all my problems started back probably about a week before the freak storm. We were out bass fishing. We come back. We get to shore. Now this involves UFOs.
So not only do we have freak storms, but now we have UFOs.
Yeah. So anyhow, we had a great day bass fishing. Coming back to the dock, and all of a sudden, Yvette's like, "What's that? You know, what are those?" And I'm like, "I'm looking at the dock because I got to park this boat." And I look up, and there are all these kind of like white orbs, hundreds of them, broad daylight, 4 in the afternoon, sunny, beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, and there's these huge, I call it a swarm of orbs that are probably, I don't know, I mean, bigger than a softball, smaller than a volleyball, you know?
Oh.
So kind of, I mean, they're not tiny, and they're sparkling, shimmering.
Jeez.
They're disappearing in groups and then reappearing, going right, going left. We were watching one turn into 20. And then 20 go back into 1.
You know, so you have all these sparkly balls out there, for lack of a better term.
Sparkly balls. I don't know what they are.
Because they were sparkling and they were spherical, so we're going to go with sparkly balls for now.
Right.
You're watching this. You know, one thing, a couple things come to mind. Number one, it would seem that you're the only person on that entire lake that ever sees these UFOs happen.
Okay, well, just let me.
No, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. There's a thought behind it.
Right. Okay. So, but I'm with somebody. They're seeing them.
Yeah, but your party is seeing them.
I'm just trying to establish when my boat trouble started.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's all I'm trying to do. I didn't even really want to tell the UFO story. I'm just trying
but here you are telling us about your sparkly balls.
But this is when everything went to hell.
Okay.
Pardon my French. Okay. So.
Oui, it's fine.
I'm now grabbing my phone and filming these hundreds and hundreds of these. These are not just 1 or 2. And I'm only 40 feet away because I'm just, kind of outside, away from the dock. Right? Because obviously I'm not going to dock the boat with my yard invaded by UFOs. Would you? Would you just pull in and say howdy?
No, I would be like you. What the hell?
I'm just I can't figure out
what's going on.
Right. I can't figure out what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
At first, I think it's a flock of somehow these big white birds.
That sparkle.
Then I'm like, well, how do birds don't disappear and reappear? And I'm like, well, that's weird. And then they would all turn black, or part of them would turn, some of them would turn all black, jet black. Then they would go gray. Then they would sparkle again. Then they would turn white. Then they would disappear.
What the hell?
And they never stopped moving. None of them ever quit moving, so you couldn't really get a handle, on what you're looking at. Right?
That is nuts.
And so I grab my phone, and I do what any good Samaritan would do, seeing this kind of phenomena. And I'm a camera guy. I start filming, and I'm thinking to myself, if I could have patted myself on the back, Joel, I would have. Because I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting the best UAP footage in the world.
Possibly ever.
Ever in the entire world, in the history of man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm only 40 feet away.
Yeah, you're seeing them firsthand, like right close.
Oh, yeah.
Like perfectly close.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, this is like amazing, amazing, amazing. And I'm filming. And right away, as soon as I get the thought in my head, Yvette, you should probably grab your cell phone and start filming too.
Sure.
You know, because she didn't think of it, and I didn't either until they all started moving off. Now they're above the neighbors, all over, swarming all over their roof, above their roof. And she finally gets, it takes a little while to get your cell phone fired up. They're not, you got to turn it on. Then you got to hit, go scroll to the camera thing, hit that, then scroll over to find the video.
Sure.
And it's sunny. And if you know, your cell phone screen is horrible in the sun.
Yeah.
And there was not a cloud in the sky. But she gets going and she's filming and they're moving off and I'm still filming too. Finally, they move off and we're just like, what was that? What was that? It's like, hurry up, park the boat, tie it up, go run in the house because I want to see the footage. Because I'm thinking, dang, I just nailed the best.
Yeah. You might have the Holy Grail here.
The Holy
on your
Grail.
Cell phone. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I know I do. I am 100% sure I do. And I go in the garage and I hit the phone, to flip the screen on. Yeah. And it's black. And I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. The battery's dead. So I plug it in. Waiting for it, it takes a minute or so and then it'll turn on. Nothing. Really new cell phone too, by the way. It's probably maybe a week and a half old. So it won't turn on. And I told Yvette, I said, well, let's check your footage. So we check hers. Yep, she's got it on hers. But they're, they're not the, oh my God, footage I got. So really? I said, get in the car, we're going up to Sprint. So we hop in the car, we run up to the store to see if the techs can get the footage off. Because my phone will not turn on. They have it, they're in the back room for a while. I told them the whole story. I said, dude, you got to get this footage off.
Yeah.
Get this footage off for me.
Yeah.
And they were young and they were excited and they seemed like they really knew, oh yeah, there's no phone we can't ever get on and blah, blah, blah. We know all these tricks.
Yeah, we got this. Don't worry kind of attitude.
Yep, and I'm still real hopeful. They come out of the back room and they go, dude, your phone's a brick.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'd never heard that term.
Yeah.
For electronics. And so I said, you got to help me. Do you know anybody else we can take it to? So they give us the name of another guy. There's some hacker guy or somebody that can just do miracles with iPhones, and he could fix phones that have been at the bottom of a lake for a year. And he had it for quite a long time, and he said, "Dude, your phone's a brick."
Like even the best hacker in the area that is known for getting the impossible things off a cell phone said your phone is like DOA. It's done for. It's dead. Couldn't
even get any current through it anywhere. And so I thought, oh God. Okay, so this is when the boat problems start. Remember now, got this boat for like 9 years, never one problem. So now I go to use the boat to cover it because we're in a hurry, and went to check it, and it won't go. And I'm like, oh my God. So my phone, now my boat, and apparently the controller was burned out. It's the controller that regulates the current. And all that. That's what fried on it. Okay. Then all of a sudden, all of our thermostats didn't work, air conditioning, vacuum, burglar alarm, just nothing worked. Even the HDMI ports and all the TVs burned out.
You know what it sounds like?
What?
It sounds like you're blasted with a massive EMP.
Oh, yeah. Well, something. Well, then, so what are you going to do? Call your insurance and say, oh, yeah, we had a
UFO sighting.
What was in the yard? And we got all this low voltage stuff burned out, and they're like, well, that's really an appliance issue, and you're gonna have to deal with your warranties. And anyhow, so that didn't get covered, and I had to have a low voltage guy here forever.
Wow.
But then, of course, then you get the boat fixed. Well, then the storm, I got it fixed, and then I had a new controller put in and all that stuff. Then a storm came and took the whole boat out.
Mm-hmm.
Then it took all year to get that, the new boat, the insurance, get the new boat, take the old motor, because I just put a new controller on it, put that in the new boat, parked it. The next day, the storm took it out again.
Jeez.
Then, so now I just finally got it back. I swear to God, just got it back. It's been in the shop forever.
Yeah.
And now the lake all the water just sucked out of it. And the boat is literally solid on ground. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to sell this boat.
Hold on a second now. Your first boat was destroyed by extraterrestrial intelligence.
Well, something. I don't know what they were.
Something. We're going to go with ETs for now. Yeah. Because we don't know.
Let's call them space seagulls.
Let's call them space sprites.
Space plankton. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something. Okay. That gets destroyed. You fight for what seemed like a year with your insurance company to get your boat covered. They finally cover it.
Well, and the house.
And the house. You run up to Grand Rapids to get your new boat.
Yes.
Yeah, bring it on back down to where you live. And you're like, yay.
They took the old motor off, put it on the new boat, brought it back, got it launched, put it in.
Everybody is hopeful and happy, and we can go on our boat again, and we can go on our lake again. Times are great.
Yep.
Following day.
The exact same kind of freak storm.
Exact same kind of freak storm hits you. Destroys your boat. Not only does it destroy your boat, but it sucks water out of the lake on top of it.
No, you're getting the story all mixed up. My neighbor's dock flew in the air and it destroyed the motor. It flew way up in the air and landed on my motor. So now I got a boat, but I got no motor.
Gotcha.
So first the boat got destroyed, then I put the old motor on a new boat, then the motor got destroyed.
Well, did your second boat get fixed?
Yeah, they finally just got the motor on it. And now it's sitting out there. But then they delivered it and they left, and the lake went down another 6-7 inches.
That's what I was saying. Your lake got depleted of water.
Because we're in a drought. We're in a drought.
Yes, we're in a drought. So your lake is really a man-made lake.
Yes.
In that area. So it's real susceptible to evaporation affecting it, hot weather, removing water, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's going to be.
It's not a spring-fed lake. What I'm saying is,
it is spring-fed, but they're pumping out so much water out of the ground. Yeah. They said they have 2 pumps running to just keep water in the water tower
to compensate for the lack
of
water
rain. Table.
Yep. Yeah. So this all happens to you. Your house is affected. Your boats are affected. You're affected in some way because your phone was destroyed.
Yeah, so I'm going on 3 years with no boat. All started with this space plankton.
So at what point do we blame the ETs and we start shaking our fists at the sky and getting angry with them?
So how do you move a boat? It's 1 ton. How do you move a pontoon that's literally on the mud?
I have been parts of projects where we have had to do that.
Well, I guess I can get a boat. I think what I'll have to do is get some pontoon or 2. But see, everybody's got electric. Nobody has any horsepower. They're like 2 horse to try to jerk it. But then what do I do with it?
True. But now you're stuck with a lake that's running dry in essence, and your boat it's still not running correctly. I'm assuming.
No, it
So-
runs. Got a brand new motor. Everything's brand new now. So now the boat is new and the
Yes.
motor's good. So now it's stuck, but I'm waiting for the storm.
So what's the moral of the story?
Don't buy a boat.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for the moral of that tale of high
Get a little
strangeness.
plastic play school paddle boat. Get something little.
Yeah,
I don't.
you should get one for two people where you can just kind of paddle around in your lake.
Well,
You know.
You've heard the saying. The two best days of owning a boat are the day you buy it and the day you
And the
sell.
day you sell it. Every boat I have ever owned in my life, and I've owned a few,
Yep.
has been a money pit.
It's just
It's a
pit.
hole in the water that you throw money in.
Oh, Joel, you have no idea because you got to pay someone to fix it, then to transport it. Because I don't have a pontoon trailer. Where am I gonna? What are we gonna store that 30-foot thing somewhere? So you don't buy one, you got to rent them, and I just, oh my God, and then you got insurance and you got tabs.
It's
Well, then you
horrible.
gotta have a fishing license, so so you buy all this stuff and then you still can't use your boat.
Still can't use it. You paid all this. You jumped through all the hoops. You ever think, Doug, maybe you're cursed?
Well, yeah, on the boat lately, but it's been. But the point is, I had 9 years.
Of good luck.
It was perfect. I used it almost every day.
You enjoyed yourself. You and Yvette loved the boat. It
Yeah.
did its job flawlessly until those damn ETs showed up, or unidentified flying phenomena.
Yeah.
Decided to show up.
Do we have a? I'm trying to think. Somebody I just can't remember who I sent it to. Oh, there was an Amazon producer that interviewed me, and they're putting it in a show, the footage.
Whoa. The footage
It's
that
going
was
in a
on
TV
your
show.
cell phone. So, wait. I thought that
No,
your
not mine.
footage...
Yvette's.
Yvette's footage. Okay, not her cell phone, however, did not brick.
Because they were farther away probably when she filmed
See,
it.
I am telling you, you got nailed by EMP. There's some type of EMF disturbance
It could be.
that fried that technology.
But okay, I got another, since we're on the topic, I have another EMF or, EMP, which means pulse. It's just a frequency. But anyhow, so I have another weird story. So Blaine, my son, decides he's going on a little Bigfoot expedition with two guys. They go up to an area near the boundary water actually past North Gilbert.
Yep.
On a lake called Jeanette Lake, I believe.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Apparently there's no homes on it. It's a wilderness lake.
Yeah.
Okay. So they go up there and they bring for the first time in their arsenal an EMP meter, a digital EMP meter with an alarm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He's always wanted to, he's never brought one. So he brings this thing and he sets the alarm really high, like at 180.
Yeah. Some high
Baseline
number.
is between 0 and 15. That's all the way up there traveling up.
Yeah.
Car, around electronics, it's 15.
Yeah.
They get up there, they set up camp. They do one wood knock or a set of wood knocks. It immediately jumps to 180. And 120, 150, then we're talking dangerous levels of radiation. They're in the middle of nowhere. There's no electronics.
So, do you have a theory, Doug, on what would have caused that? I mean,
My theory is you got to do it again. You got to bring two this time to make sure there was no malfunction.
You have to make sure it's repeatable.
Yes.
Before we can actually call that not an anomaly.
Guess what's sitting in my Amazon cart?
Another meter.
Yes. And by the way, I got a bone to pick with you. You have my acoustimeter. I still need it.
Oh, yeah, I have that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I still have that somewhere. I got to dig that up to send that to you.
Yeah. Bring it to the convention in the Perry Unity Convention.
Yeah. I can do that.
On July 8th.
Yes.
I will be there.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I will be speaking.
You will be speaking.
And
I'll be there.
You'll probably be there. Yeah.
Of course I'm going to be there. I'll
have the Untold radio booth there.
Good, because I'll be part of that as well.
Well,
Untold Radio.
But we never talked about it.
Well, we never talked about it, but now we are. You're hearing planning right here. So I'll be at the
Yeah.
Para-Unity Convention, which I was already planning to be there because I am helping the wonderful and gracious Michael O'Neill,
Yes.
helping with some logistical things. So it's
Did you say gracious?
He is gracious. I like Michael. He's one of my best friends. So, I had to throw that in there.
Gracious?
And
That's not a word I would use.
He is very nice to me.
Really? All I do is get teased by Mike.
Michael and we are friends. We are
No, I
very
know
good
you're
friends.
I'm friends with Mike.
I know, but see, you get the ribbing end.
Yeah, so
and
I don't think of him as, he's so gracious the way
he has helped me out in the
calls me
past.
an old man.
Well,
man.
he anyhow, let's get back on topic here, and that's the Para-Unity Convention.
Yes.
Let's talk about that a little bit. You're going to be there. I'm going to be there. Mike's going to be there. Mr. O'Neill. And, of course, he hosts on this network and on the station as you're listening. They do the Odyssey Paranormal Files.
Yep.
So it's a great radio show. You guys can tune into that every single Monday. So I highly advise it. But, yeah, come on and get your tickets at mnparacon.com. They're still available. Come be a part of it. Meet Doug. Meet me. I guess now I just realized I'm at a radio booth that weekend. So I will have the live remote stuff all ready to go for that weekend. And we will do an impromptu show also while we're there.
So you see how smooth I worked into that?
You did. That's what they call a segue.
But the segue was I want my acoustometer back.
It was. You use that as a segue to want your meter back, which I will give you your meter back in Duluth, Minnesota.
Well, now we got to tell our audience very quick before we go to break what an acoustometer is.
What is an acoustometer?
I'll bet you didn't even use it.
I bet it's a cell phone. It's an EMF detector is really what it is.
Yeah.
And
it's basically
mainly used for cell phone data to see how much a cell phone's putting out.
It's the world's most expensive AM radio.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I actually am looking at it right now. There it is. I found it. It's right there.
Show it to me. Show it to me.
I'm not going to show it to you.
Show it to me.
That sounds so dirty, Doug. Show it to me.
I want to see my acoustometer. Anyhow, I used it for in development of the alarm clock. So we could detect the radiation.
The
deflection.
new prototype that we were not going to be talking about, but the prototype that you should keep your eyes out for someday soon.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That is it was explained to me, the technology by Adam, and it sounds very interesting.
Yeah. But you could probably use it for ghosts, maybe. I don't know. That's
the acoustometer.
Yeah, that's what you were thinking.
Yeah, you could. I see an application there for it. Because at its heart, it's still an EMF detector.
But it would drive you crazy.
Yeah, it would. It would. Because it makes some funky noises.
Yeah, oh, God, yeah. Yep.
So bottom line is, Duluth is coming up. Are you excited? I mean, we're only a couple weeks out.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'm thinking, I got to get a whole bunch of stuff done.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you even prepared your presentation yet?
No.
No? You better get on that.
I will. Yeah, I will.
You better get that done.
I definitely will bring the footage up and present that to the crowd.
I think they'd like that. Yeah.
Of the, space plankton? What did you call them?
Oh, the space. The sprites. The
space sprites.
Yeah, space sprites, because they're just kind of. When you showed me that, it almost looks like something you get on your TV, like a sprite on your TV, pixelated, the way they present when you're watching it, like a black hole on a screen.
You can see them good. I mean, they're just sparkling and shimmering. And I found a guy in Texas in I think it was Fort Worth, the exact same phenomena. And he filmed it. Clear blue sky, too, which was really interesting that the sky was not a cloud in it. There's no doubt. It is the exact same phenomena.
And you guys compared notes, of course, about what you guys probably experienced.
I didn't call him. I just
You didn't call him.
I just took his footage.
You met your kindred spirit, so to speak, with the same phenomena. You never called the man?
You can't get a hold of people on YouTube anymore. You spell the right to them?
Yeah.
You can't anymore. They don't let you.
Wow. You could have commented on his video. Hey, this is Doug. If you see this...
Okay, confession time. I just finished back to school shopping. Nothing like the last minute, huh? Kohl's to the rescue. I got 25% off a JanSport backpack for my son, $17.99 sew jeans for my daughter, and 50% off Levi's for both kids. Levi's, can you believe it? I even got $10 off because I spent $25 and picked up Kohl's cash. So, yeah, sometimes procrastination pays off. Select styles. 10 off 25 offer ends September 6th. Levi's coupons do not apply. Some exclusions apply. See store or Kohl's.com for details.
Enviar nota de voz al group chat. Buenos días, ¿quieren desayuno de McDonald's?
Guille dice, eres la mejor. Un sausage McMuffin, please. Laura dice, sí, sausage McGriddles para mí. Ale dice, ya comí, pero me traes un hash browns, love you.
Mi colega favorita, Jill. Llévate todos tus favoritos de desayuno como un sausage McMuffin por unos pocos dólares, solo en el $1, $2, $3 menú de McDonald's. Precios y participación pueden variar, no puede ser combinado con un combo meal.
Look me up. Something like that. There would have been ways around it, is what I'm saying. I will find this guy for you, and I'll put you in touch with him.
Look up I think it's called UFO Swarm.
Okay.
I think it. Oh, God,
I will do that. I will do some digging, and I will get you his contact info.
Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay. So. I'll do some digging. But Doug, we gotta run to break. We gotta get out of here, and we're kind of done with the UFO thing because we're shifting gears now into cryptozoology with Carl Marshall. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back, right after a few messages.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. Set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey, girl. School zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Untold Radio AM. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Doug Highcheck. Doug, I see you made it to the other side of the break.
Yes.
Aliens didn't come down after you talked about abduct you, so that's good.
Nope.
You know, so that's always real good. Tonight we're talking with Carl Marshall. He is a UK biologist and assistant director of the Center for Fortean. There we go.
How do you pronounce it, Carl?
Fortean.
Fortean.
Yeah, I was right. Fortean Zoology. This is the largest professional, scientific, and full-time organization in the world dedicated to cryptozoology, the study of unknown animals. He has traveled extensively from Belize to Borneo, searching both for rare species of cryptids. He owns a particularly mischievous French Bulldog. Man, I love those dogs. I always wanted one of those. Appropriately named Loki. So I just want to welcome him, and he has done so many things in this field as well. I mean, he is a professional in this field. How often do we get to talk to somebody that has done it and at this level? So I am really excited to talk to you, Carl, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
So, can you explain how the Fortean Society got its name? Who was Charles Fort? A lot of the younger people they don't know. They've never heard of Charles Fort.
Yeah, Charles Fort was one of the very first chroniclers of mysterious phenomena, shall we say. He would look at it from a scientific point of view, and he's basically one of the big forefathers, if you like, of what cryptozoology would eventually become. It's quite a broad field. So the Center for Fortean Zoology, my boss John Downs, he decided that cryptozoology might not be quite suitable for everything that we do, because some of the mystery animals quite clearly are not flesh. Something else entirely. So Fortean Zoology is sort of a catch-all kind of category for all that.
Gotcha. So it kind of covers the whole umbrella, the whole gamut of cryptozoology. Exactly. Gotcha.
And didn't Charles Fort also cover things like things falling from the sky, like fish and frogs and basically other phenomena? I mean, there was a lot of different phenomena. My father used to read me Charles Fort books when I was a kid.
Yeah. Low is my favorite. Yeah, great fun.
Sounds really interesting. So, what got you into wanting to search for these strange and wonderful creatures yourself?
Well, it started off through my father, I suppose. My father was a taxidermist for many years. So this would have been back in the early 80s and into the 1990s, when if a zoo animal died, a taxidermist was still allowed to stuff it basically and preserve it, which is something that can't happen now. So I got to see all sorts of rare animals from the zoo environment, sort of things that died naturally in zoos, in my house. I've got a very vivid memory of holding a panther's foot as it was resting on the table. I was only a little boy. I was sat on the floor, and I remember just supporting the weight of it, the dead weight of its foot, and it's things like that just stuck with me. And I slowly got into actual biology. You say I'm a biologist, but technically I'm actually a biology student. I'm studying a biology degree at the moment. I do have a background in entomology, as I was curator of insects at the Stratford butterfly farm for about 10 years.
Wow. Man, that's interesting. And so you did that for quite a while then. 10 years is a long time.
Yeah, I mean, it's not all butterflies. I've worked with venomous species of spider, dangerous snakes, reptiles, all that sort of thing.
Sure. And so when you're doing all this work, and obviously it got you out into the field into some very, far away and tropical locales, did you kind of go off script a little bit and maybe talk to the locals about cryptozoology stuff?
That's basically what I've done every single time. For instance, when I worked at the butterfly farm, one of our jobs was to go out to certain locations where particular species were found, and we would monitor them and see how healthy the populations were doing. And then if they were doing well, we would export them, and they'd go to other butterfly houses around the world.
Okay.
In this area, this was South Salvador, funnily enough. And I just thought, wonder what else is here. I've been following cryptozoology since I was a child, since when they brought me on the track of unknown animals. And I just thought I would see what was going on out there. And I just investigated reports as well as looking for rare species of known animal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And when you're doing your searching for the unknown, did you run into, any evidence of the unknown? I mean, what was the, I guess, your closest brush with an unknown species?
I possibly saw a cryptid called the Ajuli, which is supposedly a remnant population of the African wild dog found. This particular type is supposed to be in North Africa in the Atlas Mountains. We were with the Berbers in their Berber tent, and I was pointed to this pack of dogs that was circling in the distance quite strangely, all sort of going around together, and what they were, and I was told that they are the bush dog, the Ajuli, which is a cryptid animal. If that's what it was, then I've seen one. Well, I've seen a lot of them, but it was too far away and I couldn't see any real clear features. They were just dark, silhouetted against the light background of the sand, so I couldn't say for sure.
And what did the locals have to say about them? I mean, they've described them to you, obviously, but did they talk about their behaviors at all, or was it something to be feared?
No, there wasn't anything to be feared. They were just described as something that's still seen occasionally, not as often as they once were, perhaps. And their behaviour is in the they didn't know much about them either, really, because they said they're not seen that often. And I got back and I spoke to Dr. Carl Schuker about them. And he told me that there's basically no behavioural information about them anywhere, really. So what I saw might be a first.
Wow. If you were to actually...
It looked like they were circling in tandem, sniffing something underneath the ground. That's what they looked like they were doing. And I've never seen a canid behave like that before, or heard of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. I mean, could you imagine being the first one to actually find something like that in the mainstream? You can name it after yourself, Carl.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
That would be great. It would be the Marshall creature.
So I was going to mention how me and Carl met. We were actually debating. Wasn't it the Patterson footage, Carl, that we were debating?
Yeah.
So why don't you get into that? Of what were we talking about, and what was the debate on?
Well, I seem to remember that we were talking about what might be a hernia on the thigh of the animal, on the thigh of the subject, which I at the time wasn't particularly convinced of. I thought maybe it was a glitch in the film or something like that. And Doug was quite certain that I was wrong and I should look more into it. And he sent me some really interesting resource information. And I just checked it out a bit closer. And to be honest with you, I'm probably quite prepared to back down and say, no, I don't know what that is. If whatever that is, it could well be some sort of hurt. So yeah, it's a very, very interesting piece of footage, and there's nothing else like it.
Yeah, I'd sent him probably a close-up of on the thigh on the Patterson creature during the leg lift on the right leg. There's a bump that lifts with the leg bending in perfect harmony of where either a highly developed femoris muscle would be or a hernia. And it was weird because when I showed it to surgeons, Carl, they went, "Oh yeah, I fix those every week on women." they get pregnant, and then this hernia travels down their leg. I mean, it was like every surgeon I showed it to went, "Oh yeah, I recognize exactly what that is." Yeah. And so that's just one more interesting thing that, speaks to its authenticity. I don't think somebody would have put that in, hey, let's put a hernia.
Yeah.
Footage, and somebody maybe 50 years in the future will find it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes no sense at all.
No. Yeah, that's interesting. But it's really interesting to meet somebody like Carl, who obviously has got a lot of opinions on cryptozoology, on Bigfoot, and yet we had this very civil, polite debate. And I think it's nice when people get into that, and certainly crypto needs more of that. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do. I think we need to always approach it with an unbiased eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So what are your thoughts? Just on the whole Bigfoot mystery that's over here, and of course you guys have a little bit going on over there, with the Bigfoot mystery.
Kind of, yeah. In terms of the Sasquatch, I think the evidence is phenomenal, really. Especially, like you say, the Patterson-Gimlin footage from 1967 is nothing else like it. The track data that we've got, that Dr. Jeff Meldrum investigates regularly, it's almost impossible to fake. I don't know how you would even go about faking dermal ridges, So yeah, I mean, the evidence for Sasquatch is very, very good. In terms of ecological probabilities, is the Sasquatch most likely to be found in North America? Perhaps not. I wouldn't say North America is the most likely place for something like that to exist, but that doesn't mean it couldn't. And there certainly are places in North America, Canada, and Alaska that would be perfectly capable of concealing something like that.
Hey guys, we're using Poshmark and you should too. Do you have things that you don't wear anymore? Poshmark is seriously the easiest way to make room in your closet, make some cash, and also snag a bargain. It's the coolest reseller with the best brands like Lululemon, Nike, Reformation, and Gucci for up to 70% off. DJ Khaled has a closet, and Serena Williams. Download the app today. Enter Podcast 10 when you sign up for $10 off your first purchase on Poshmark.
I'm a business-owning, meal prepping 24/7 supermom. But who isn't nowadays? And for me, first day of school success begins at Office Depot Office Max, where everything my kids need to start the year strong is in one place. Like a laptop for my high schooler, backpacks and notebooks for the little ones, and hand sanitizer for all of the above. I can even order things for my business. It's all available in-store and online at OfficeDepot.com and at low prices all season long. Office Depot Office Max. Their business is to keep school going.
Sorry about that. I agree. I think you're right. It's more than just here in the United States. I think that it definitely could be worldwide, and I don't see any reason why, like the British Isles, would not have Bigfoot. I mean, they clearly have other creatures that survive just fine. I think they even have some form of bear. Am I correct in that area?
Well, there are reports of bears. In the Forest of Dean, there's reports of bears still, and obviously bears were a native animal at one time. As for the British Bigfoot, to be honest with you, I don't know. The chances of something biological anomaly, I think, is pretty slim. Britain is a very small island that's been well explored and well documented for hundreds of years. Some of the very first taxonomists were British, so it makes sense that they would be pretty thorough on that. And I just can't think of anywhere in Britain where a wild population, an actual animal like that, could actually survive and get by without being noticed.
True.
I think that it must be something paranormal. That's much more reasonable to me.
Well, that really could be the case, because I'm looking at some of the stuff. I mean, we just recently did a show on Bigfoot in the British Isles, and we talked all about that and really brought up some great points, our guest did. about that, and I do believe, what was the guy's name again? I'm so sorry, I'm looking it up really quickly.
Andy
But
McGrath.
that's
Andy
what
McGrath.
it was. And Andy McGrath brought up some great points of, Bigfoot and why it could exist. But how do you account, in your own mind, Carl, for a couple different things here? Number one, for the fact that no one could see it. I mean, it just seems to disappear. I mean, have you ever heard of an animal that has that kind of ability to hide in what would seem to be plain sight so thoroughly?
Not to that degree, no. Not so that somebody thinks that they've actually seen it dissipating. Animals are very often stealthy, and I suppose it's possible that somebody could have made a mistake and just didn't witness something clearly. But no, I mean, a flesh and blood animal is a flesh and blood animal, isn't it? It can't disappear. And if that's what people are claiming to see, then that just also adds to the theory that it's something what we call a zooform phenomena. So it's not a flesh and blood creature. It's something more akin to the paranormal, perhaps.
And that could also speak to its supernatural ability, or it would seem supernatural ability, to avoid almost all cameras, hidden and ones that are out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would explain a lot, wouldn't it?
It's almost supernatural sixth sense, as it were, to foil any possible photographic evidence.
Yeah, we're not dealing with a dumb animal, though.
No, we're dealing with something that's very aware.
Yeah, I mean, I personally think that if something like that does exist and it's hiding and not being noticed by science, I would expect it to be some sort of hominid, a hominin perhaps, something more closely related to us, not necessarily an ape. But that's just my theory. That's what I see when I look at the Patterson Gimlin footage. I don't necessarily see an upright walking ape. I see something far more human.
No. More akin to maybe a very large, hair-covered human.
Yes, but not belonging to our species.
Yeah, like
something like a representative of an early Homo or even a late Paranthropine or something like that.
Could very well be part of the species that was alongside what we would call us, our Homo sapiens types that did not flourish like we did.
Yeah, and I think our presence is what has made them, well, maybe not even just us, maybe even our ancestors like Homo erectus, which is another hominid that we know migrated out of Africa. Perhaps the ancestors of the Bigfoot Sasquatch or any of those other type creatures from around the world, perhaps, maybe they are just, they're just that. They actually are some sort of Paranthropus. They left Africa beforehand, before Homo erectus did. Homo erectus persecuted them, made them live in more far out areas, into the mountainous regions, into areas where we don't want to go as a species. The Homo erectus seems to have died out. All the evidence points toward that. And maybe our ancestors then kept them in the peripheries, if you like, in places where we don't want to go.
Sure. Yeah. I would imagine it was, probably either for food sources or what have you, that we would have, conflicted with them.
Yeah.
But very interesting theory.
So, Carl, what other cryptids are you super interested in because you feel they may exist? You're not wasting your time.
I do quite a lot of work with the British big cat phenomenon in Britain, which they aren't really cryptids. I suppose they're pseudo-cryptids because, we know what they are. They're just out of place. And I think there's a lot of really good evidence for those now. Even I myself have found spore, which I thought would be a good idea to get it tested by some peer reviewers. So I got several PhDs to check it out and just have a look at it. PhDs that are familiar with both feline and canine tracks. And so far, 9 out of 10 have said that, it seems to be a lynx-sized cat. So I think there's a really good chance that there are some out-of-place cats roaming around Britain. As for things like Loch Ness, I think if something's in Loch Ness, it will be most likely to be some sort of eel. I really struggle with the idea that some sort of surviving prehistoric reptile from the Cretaceous period could have got by in Loch Ness, considering Loch Ness is only about 11,000 years old. So it would have to have survived out at sea all that time, and it hasn't left any fossil evidence, which is a little bit strange. So I think that the chances of there being some sort of plesiosaur in Loch Ness is extremely slim. But possibly a mutant form of the eel, that would make sense. If an eel didn't go off to the Sargasso to mate and spawn, it might stay in the body of water that it's in and continue to grow, and that does make sense. I mean, we don't know how big the sterile eels actually do get. It won't be anything like 30 feet, but maybe something like 12 to 15 feet could maybe be exaggerated if it was breaking at the surface. So yeah, that's. I think the big cats are the most likely of all the mystery animals in Britain to actually be real.
How often are these big cats seen in Britain?
Every day, every single day. That doesn't mean that that's what's being seen every day. That's just what people think they're seeing every day. The problem is, I think that we have a genetic memory where we see a quadrupedal form roughly in the shape of a cat. We don't know what it is exactly, and our brain tells us that it's some sort of predator and to watch out and to avoid it. And I think that's why there are so many reports of cats about. But that doesn't mean that they're all that. You know, there are plenty of sightings of big cats that are quite genuine and quite credible, and I try and focus on those really if I can.
Wow. Boy, a lot to unpack, but where would they come from? I mean, my question is, how would they migrate to the British Isles, and if not, were they released from captivity by animal collectors?
Well, that's the current theory, is that in 1976, when the Dangerous Wild Animals Act came into enforce, people just released their animals. You know, they didn't want to pay to have them euthanized and whatnot. They just literally let them go into the moorlands, and there's a good chance that some of those may have survived. I would say it's probably more likely, though, that they're continuing releases to continuing escapees, pets that have been bought by unscrupulous owners that don't know how to care for them. They either escape or they let them go, and they wander off. They find each other because they've got huge territorial ranges, so they locate each other quite easily. There doesn't have to be many. You know, they travel so far. It could be the Beast of Bodmin might be the same as the Beast of Exmoor and the Beast of Dartmoor. It could all be the same cat, you know, at that particular time.
Sure.
I'm not saying that's the case, but it could be. It could be.
Well, the American mountain lion, that has a range of about, on the average, 200 miles.
Yeah.
So, you know, they wouldn't be much different in their behavior.
Yeah, and the males have ranged up to 1,200 miles. The males.
Jeez. Male mountain lions?
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's the largest range of any predator in the Western Hemisphere.
That's amazing.
And you also have reports of cougar-like, mountain lion type cats over there, don't you, with the long tail?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think those are actually more credible than the stories of the black cats. Mm-hmm. First of all, at night time, it's hard to say that a black cat is a black cat. It could just be a dark cat, and as they're primarily nocturnal and most of the sightings are at night, we can't really say for sure exactly what we're looking at. But I think that the puma is probably a more likely candidate, really. Yeah,
like the puma. Yeah. Sorry, you cut out there just for a split second. Sorry about that.
There would be no reason that a cougar, or population of cougars, even a decent size population in my mind, that couldn't survive in England. I mean, you have a lot of deer, certainly a lot of rodents and rabbits and fox and prey animals. Don't you agree?
Yeah,
I mean, they could just do well there.
Absolutely, there's a hell of a lot of prey items out there, and there are no apex predators filling that niche.
I was going to say, yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off at all, but you're absolutely correct. When there's a invasive species introduced to an area with more than ample food source, because there's no defense, these deer are not bred or even designed to deal with that predator. It would be like, for lack of a better term, shooting fish in a barrel for these cats.
Exactly, and you'd be surprised how small a cat can actually take down a deer. I mean, a lynx. I saw some footage recently of a lynx take down I think it was a mule deer, which is a big deer compared to a lynx. And the lynx just grabs hold of the deer's head and will not let go. And it's the stress, I think, that frightens the deer to death. and then obviously the lynx gets its meal.
Yeah, that.
And then you add videos. Yeah, but then you add the nice, amazing climate in England. I mean, the climate's very mild there. Really, it is.
Yeah.
Just to me, it would be like the heavenly spot for cats to breed.
I can't see any reason whatsoever that there can't be some out there, and they probably do come across each other every now and again and breed. The idea of, like I say, the beast of Bodmin, that doesn't mean that the beast of Bodmin is one cat. It doesn't mean it's any cat. It could be from a different area and just wandered through. I mean, they have enormous ranges. It doesn't have to be many of them, which I think applies maybe to Bigfoot too.
Very true. Very true. I do know the cats, like we'd established, have enormous ranges, and there's ample food supply there. It just makes you wonder, what does what's the official statement from the government on this matter? Are they embracing it? Are they saying possibly? Or are they flat out denying that there are these creatures?
Yeah,
these cats.
Yeah, they're flat out denying them. The government are, but there's lots of naturalists out there, famous naturalists from Britain, that are more open to the idea. There's a show called, I think it's called Autumn Watch, with Chris Packham, and one of the presenters, I forget her name now, but she actually saw one, not recorded on the show, but she sort of saw it behind the scenes, and there was a whole show all about the British big cats, which was nice to see because you don't get that kind of coverage usually. So yeah. Until
the apps actually acknowledge it a little bit and make steps to combat it, they're going to continue to thrive the way they are, and the sightings will just keep growing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there might well be a point eventually where their presence is, you can't really dispute it anymore.
Especially if they decide to start attacking people.
Yeah. So far, well, apparently that has happened a couple of times, but I don't think that's the most credible of sources for those stories. But that doesn't mean it can't happen and it won't happen. I mean, perhaps it will sometime in the future.
Certainly livestock is getting attacked, correct? They're having livestock that's being killed on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah, almost every week.
Wow. And so it almost takes, so they're starting to move on to livestock, and they're becoming more of probably a big nuisance. And I would imagine to some degree they're also scaring people. I mean, they're seeing these cats out in the wild that they shouldn't be there. And so how are the people taking that? Are they demanding action, or are they just stories at this point?
Yeah, it has happened before. I mean, there's been times where the military have got involved, the sharpshooters on Dartmoor and whatnot. I think that was back in the 1980s, maybe the 1970s. I'm not entirely sure. So yeah, it's been taken seriously before, but it's ever been proven. There's been no black cats ever been recorded and proven. A puma has turned up, a cougar's turned up before, perhaps two maybe, but I know one of them for definite. It was called Felicity the puma. It was found in Scotland by a farmer who was, he thought there was a lynx about, and he set up a trap, and he ended up catching a puma, and it was fully verified. It ended up at the local zoo, and then when it passed away, finally, it's now stuffed in the Inverness Natural History Museum. That's a guaranteed animal. That was actually captured, and that was what it was. And there's been smaller species like jungle cat and leopard cats, which have turned up fairly regularly and been proven to exist. It's just the black cat. The black cat, which funnily enough has the most cryptozoological data behind it, is actually the one with the least credible evidence.
Hi, I'm Randy, and this is Dave.
We're the founders of Bombas, the most comfortable socks in the history of feet.
So comfortable, we sold and donated millions of pairs.
To sell and donate a lot of socks, we became obsessed with comfort.
We reinvented the sock from the ground up, adding comfort innovations along the way.
It worked. People tried them, loved them, told their friends about them,
helping us sell and donate millions of pairs.
Try them now at bombas.com/comfy and get 20% off your first order. That's BOMBAS.com/comfy.
Have you got it?
The Shields Visa card gives you automatic gift card rewards. You can use the Shields Visa anywhere, and the more you use it, the more gift cards come your way to give you what you're passionate about, like a new golf club, shoes, fishing gear, or whatever makes you happy. Stop into your local Shields store or visit us online to get your own Shields Visa card. Shields Visa. Got it. Tap the banner for more.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have so many reports of big black leopard panther-like creatures here in the U.S. In fact, when I would travel and go to towns looking for Bigfoot witnesses, it's like it just outnumbered Bigfoot 10-1. The amount of people that wanted to talk about big black, cats.
But that makes sense because at the end of the day, they're dark quadrupeds, and there are lots of other dark quadrupeds that could be mistaken.
Right.
I mean, when it's Bigfoot, it's only really the bear, and the bear does not add up. The bear consistently lacks features that are reported in Sasquatch, like the broad shoulders, the non-noticeable neck, and the small head. I mean, that's not a description of a bear.
No, not a bit. Not even close.
So where do you stand, Carl, on all these other fringe, the more fringy Dogman, Mothman, the more fringy cryptids in the U.S.? And I would imagine you get Mothman reports in England.
Yeah, we have Owlman.
They call him the Owlman. So why don't you just, tell us your thoughts. Just kind of ramble on. We want to hear your thoughts on these fringy creatures.
I think that basically it's not a flesh and blood animal. It's something that it's some sort of interaction between the psyche and the external environment. I think the external environment triggers things in the mind which makes us think that things are there which are maybe not really there, or maybe they are really there but not in the sense that we consider something to be real. But they're fascinating nonetheless, and they do deserve study, which is why we are called the Centre for Fortean Zoology, so we can still study that kind of thing. But me personally, I try to stick with flesh and blood cryptozoology. Obviously, being a biology student and having a background working at various zoos and as an entomologist, I just try and stay grounded in flesh and blood biology.
But what if... Because we really don't know. I mean, I've talked to so many Mothman witnesses. Yeah, I just some wing-type hominid. Not necessarily Mothman, but whatever you want to call them. But, I even had my own sighting with a witness. Swooped at the car right in front of the windshield, Carl.
Okay.
And to the point where we both had to duck.
Could it have been an owl? An actual owl?
No. This thing, the wings were wider than the freeway.
Right, okay.
And it dropped from sky level right to the car level and then came right at the windshield. So it defied physics.
Absolutely.
So that's where I get into your, where you're thinking, well, it's kind of paranormal. But yet, I guarantee we did not imagine. It was not imagined. If I would have put a dash cam, I would have filmed it. Okay. But it dropped with the wings open straight down from the sky and then came forward, never flapped its wings, swooped at the windshield. I mean, it came within inches of the windshield, swooped over the car. And I mean, you talk about a life-changing moment. Because I used to think like you, oh yeah, it's got to be people's imaginations. They're seeing, cranes, sandhill cranes and whatnot. But man, when you see it yourself and then you have a witness, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, but yet I'm definitely with you. I don't think that they're living in the woods. It's got to be dimensional. It's something else. Don't know.
Yeah, no. I genuinely don't know. But it's definitely worth studying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, now, if I'm not mistaken, Doug, the story you talk about, that happened on a major interstate highway, right?
Yeah, it happened on 35W.
Yeah, so we're south of about,
yeah.
So we're talking about a very wide roadway. We're talking about a 4-lane highway.
No, it's only 2 lanes, but
Yeah.
How many witnesses were there?
You know,
It's 2 lanes. The wings were as wide or a little wider than the entire 2 lanes. Yep.
Yeah, no explanation.
No, and you don't. And that's where it really affects the witnesses, because what do you do with it?
Exactly.
You're not going to report it to any official. You know what I mean? And
How do you study that? How do you approach that? Do you approach that like it's some sort of giant bird that you just don't know what it is? Or, like I say, do you go down the paranormal route? I mean, like, that
don't
probably
know.
makes more sense.
I stick it in my gray basket.
Yeah.
Did it have, Doug, did what you saw, what kind of facial features, or did it happen just so quick that you didn't even have a chance to really recognize?
No, we did. No, because it came right directly at eye level with the windshield. No feathers. There were no feathers. Very bat-like wings.
Was it self-illuminating or anything? Like,
no,
it was putting on some light?
illumination. Just brown skin, shiny.
Bat-like wings, okay.
Brown skin that's kind of shiny. You could see almost the bone structure in the wings.
Mm-hmm.
The face just looked, black eyes, pointed ears.
Like a bat. Almost.
Right out of a horror movie.
Creepy.
Yeah, it was very creepy. And I can tell you this, that, we pulled over because Yvette was so scared, and so shook up. And to this day, it's affected her. She won't take walks at night. There's a lot of things that's affected. We used to go out every night and take walks and go on the deck. Nope, because she's like, well, what if there's something like that's out there in the dark and you're not protected by a car?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's occurred to me too.
Yeah.
Don't know. But it's interesting because I get tons of people that do send me emails and go, hey, I saw something while I was driving in Colorado and it swooped at my car, didn't flap its wings. It seemed as wide as the road. It certainly wasn't a bird. But those are the kind of they're certainly on the edge, and they don't happen as often as big cats or Bigfoot. But nevertheless, I still like to respect the witnesses because I'm one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you should always, there's never an excuse to be rude or anything like that. You always take a witness what they say. And you never know. I mean, some things aren't always what they seem, are they? I mean, sometimes you might think something is like, say, a dinosaur, say, like something.
Mm-hmm.
For all intents and purposes, it seems like a dinosaur. Maybe it's not. Maybe it was a bird, and you just didn't see the feathers properly, or something along those lines. Was it a night observation or during the day?
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, I do believe that. Size can be mistaken easily. Because you don't really have a great comparison. But in this case, I think back and I go, yeah, we did know the size. It was only, we were in a Corvette. We were only 5 feet off, it was only 5 feet off the surface of the road. So you could see the wingtips, and you could clearly see the overlap, the white lines. So it wasn't like we saw it in the middle of nowhere up in the sky. It was very close to us.
And you had to reference a size because you can go out and measure that line to line in the highway and know how wide.
And then when you meet people just south of there that had the exact, another son and his father had the exact same experience. Literally, you could draw a straight line due south of where we did. And they pulled over too, just like we did, except they were vomiting.
Oh.
They reported being very ill, either very scared or it had some effect on them where they were vomiting. But anyhow, I don't want to, spend time on these weird ones too much. But
I just want to bring up one thing though before we leave the winged ones. Remember Chicago?
Yes.
I mean, hundreds of thousands of witnesses to that one. It makes you wonder what it was, because there was never any resolution to what that creature was. Carl, you familiar with what we're talking about over there, guys?
Numerous creatures in Chicago. Yep.
Was that Marlon Lowe, the boy that claimed?
No. I think Joel's referring to the Mothman type.
Yeah, as the winged creature. There was for about a month and a half there.
To be honest, I know very little about this. Really.
It's still happening.
I don't.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah.
It's ongoing.
So, yeah. It's very interesting. But yeah, we can move on from that. That's not a problem. We'll get back into your wheelhouse of what what we're talking about. So, you have these animals, these cats, they're out there. So, do you think now? Are you a Bigfoot believer?
I think it's a genuine possibility.
Do you have a reason on the other side of the coin of why not Bigfoot?
Some of the areas where Bigfoot is reported, to my eye anyway, they seem very, very unlikely to be able to conceal something like that from enough people that it would stay away from, from science. But like I say, there are some places in North America which is quite plausible. So, I personally think that maybe the Almasty of Russia is probably more likely. But that doesn't mean that the Bigfoot doesn't exist. I'm not saying that at all.
No, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth either and making you say that. But, because we don't have a ton of empirical evidence. We have a lot of anecdotal, but not a ton of empirical.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea to focus on ecological data rather than solely relying on the cryptozoological type data. I think if the actual location itself is wild enough and the geology perhaps is the sort that could keep something like we're talking about isolated perhaps, then yeah, that is possible. But I think maybe the orang pendek from Sumatra, that's probably the most likely of all the hominids, I think, to actually exist, because it has been reported a couple of times by what we might call a credible scientist. One who ran the tiger conservation unit out in Sumatra, Debbie Marta, she claims to have seen the orang pendek at least twice, and she's a fully competent witness. She's I think she's a qualified biologist anyway, and also one of the photographers out there. He's seen it a couple of times. These are people that, they're not going to make it up. They're proper wildlife biologists, and photographers. They've got no need to make something like this up.
Sure.
They're there. I mean, Jeremy Holden was there photographing the Sumatran hare. Now, in the area 4 when he I think that was when he saw the orang pendek at that time. So I think that the orang pendek is the most likely. The Almasty is obviously got to be reasonably high up there, and the Yeren as well. The Yeren of China. There's some places in China where there could easily be some sort of hominid getting by without us knowing about it. But again, that does not mean that Bigfoot or Sasquatch does not exist.
Sure, exactly. And the people you brought up too are trained observers. It's not a layperson. Yeah. These are individuals that are highly educated in biology and know what they're looking for and are seeing this. So it's not a Joe Blow off the street witnessing this.
No, there's no way Debbie Marta would mistake a gibbon, say, for something else.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever looked into the Beely ape, also called the lime killer ape?
Yeah, the Bondo mystery ape.
Yeah, the Bondo. Yep.
Yeah. It seems that when they were actually photographed, they didn't correspond at all with what the reports said they were. They were meant to be large, ground-dwelling, chimpanzee, gorilla hybrid-looking animals with a large sagittal crest that spend most of their time on the ground and build these elaborate ground nests, kind of like Bigfoot does. But when the researchers went out there and filmed them for the first time, they were up in the trees, much, much more slender than what we were expecting them. They look just like normal chimpanzees, really. So it was just a population of chimps, that was all. There wasn't really anything that exciting about it. That's what it was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, how did they get the name the Lion Killer? Is it because they actually do kill lions, or is it just a name?
Yeah, it would be just a name. There's no way they would be killing lions. It might be that some of them are slightly larger than the average, and because they're slightly larger than the average, these sort of stories just get invented.
Sure.
The same sort of stories happened in the Himalayas with.
Mm-hmm.
People say they would grab a hold of a yak and tear its head off with its hands and things like that, you know. And they said the same kind of stories about the gorilla before that was discovered. The gorilla was supposed to club elephants and carry away virgins, which obviously it didn't do. It didn't mean it didn't exist.
Yeah, they're big, but I don't think they're elephant big.
So is that type of chimp been completely certified that it's real?
Well, as far as I know, it's just considered to be a variety, a non-taxonomic variety, so it doesn't warrant its own name. It's just a population. Yeah.
And they are bigger, though. That is correct.
So far, apart from a couple of skulls, of everything I've seen that's up to date, no, they seem to just be normal chimps.
Really?
Yeah.
So why all the lore? Because I remember even talking to Carl Anon many years ago. God, it goes back almost 20 years, when he was the first one to kind of pursue these creatures, saying that they were, quite a bit bigger than chimps. And so is it because of their geographic location? They didn't know chimps were in that location, or what's the story as you know it? Because I can't seem to get a straight answer on this.
Yeah, I think originally it was just word of mouth. It was basically folklore. There was the idea that there was these wild men living in the woods, and when scientists actually went out there and started looking for them, they started finding other evidence of chimpanzees, and then they started finding this weird evidence like they were ground-dwelling chimps, and then they started thinking, oh, okay, this is obviously behaviorally different. It's not the same as what we're used to. And so they went out there, they checked them out, and eventually they did find them. But like I say, they didn't correspond to reports suggested. What we've seen of them in the trees, they look like normal chimpanzees.
Yeah, I'm looking at some photos on Google of these, and you're right. They just look like normal chimps, maybe a bit larger, but not as big as the great apes, or not as big as the largest species of the great apes.
It's still quite at home up a tree, where the stories were that these were ground-dwelling, enormous chimpanzees that people were thinking might have been some sort of hybrid between a gorilla and a chimpanzee, which obviously wasn't.
Yeah, it is interesting, though, that it does lend credibility to the stories, to the witnesses. At least there was a real animal behind them.
And that applies to most cryptids. I mean, things get exaggerated and they get elaborated on, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a kernel of truth.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
That is true. Very true. Has to be built upon something.
Somebody asked me whether you could, talk more about the almasty, and whether, do you think that's a different species than a Bigfoot?
Yes, I do. Again, though, since the Patterson-Gimlin film, a lot of these reports around the world have become updated, so they sort of fit that mold better. Before, the almasty was always considered to be just an average-sized human that was very hairy and very wild in its behaviors and didn't have technology. Because now you get lots of reports now which correspond very well with the North American Bigfoot. Huge tracks being found in the snow, which wasn't so much of a feature before, which makes me think that the influence, because it's such a well-known story, that it's took over and it's basically changed people's opinions of what might actually be in their vicinity. And I think that most likely the almasty is some sort of homo, as in a human. It belongs to our genus. Whether it's a Neanderthal, I doubt it. It seems to actually be something older than that, perhaps, because it has no real technology and it has no use of fire.
Interesting. It just a human maybe that is behind in technology.
Yeah, and behavioral de-evolution is very rare.
Very true. What's your take, Carl, really quickly?
Yeah.
On the chupacabra. I don't know if you've studied that or not, but what is it?
Yeah,
if you know.
It's going to be zooform phenomenon, or it's something that's been misidentified, perhaps. Wherever it was that was draining the blood from the cows and the chickens, that's still a mystery. the spiky back creature that people claim to see with that, I'm not so sure about. I think the movie Species came out about 6 months before, and that was very popular and matches up very well with the descriptions of the chupacabra. And obviously later it became associated with the blue dog myth, the blue dog stories, which were something completely different. But now if you ask somebody, they'll tell you that a chupacabra is a bold blue greyish looking dog, which of course that isn't what the original report suggested at all.
Which are probably just coyotes with mange.
Sure.
Yeah, there are various canids and hybrids between them, with various skin conditions that are bold. That seems to be the basis of that.
Yeah.
Listener just wrote in, got a hold of me asking me, would like to hear your take, if any, on the Jersey Devil.
I think the Jersey Devil is probably completely folkloric. I know people claim to see it, but I don't take all eyewitness reports at face value. That doesn't mean I distrust them, but I'll just want to get a little bit more evidence. The Jersey Devil, again, it's one of those creatures that doesn't correspond to anything. I mean, if you had to say what the Jersey Devil is, what would you say? There's no animal that we know of that's in that form. It's completely unique. Impossible, some might say. I think it's most likely just something that exists through word of mouth and other animals.
The New Jersey Devil is never fueled. I mean, there's no sightings. I haven't heard of a sighting of the New Jersey Devil ever.
Okay. Yeah, it's like the idea that Mrs. Lees or something had an affair with the devil or something like that and had some children. Yeah, it's all folklore. I doubt very much that there's any sort of biological reality to that.
Yeah, I mean, see, there's a big difference between something like the New Jersey Devil that has no fuel behind it, never any sightings, never really were any sightings, except maybe one or two people. But then you compare that to Bigfoot, where there's 1,000 plus a year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big difference.
And we know for a fact that there were animals in the past that looked like Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Whereas there's nothing that I'm aware of that looked anything like the Jersey Devil.
No, that was, if you read the description, it's a winged creature with the head of a horse, kind of a hodgepodge of many animals put together to make this odd looking creature. So I tend to believe, agree with both of you. It's more
that's a real monster. I think that's a real monster. I mean, a lot of cryptozoologists call themselves monster hunters, which sounds very exciting, but I think the reality of it is that cryptozoologists are trying to find the animal behind the monster. And if there doesn't seem to be an animal behind the monster, as is the case with the Jersey Devil, I think it's safe to assume that it's just a monster, and monsters don't exist.
Now, the one animal that gets a lot of fuel, and it seems to be picking up steam when there's more and more fuel behind it, and yet it makes no sense to be a real animal, and that's the dogman. But there are so many sightings. And for instance, there's probably 7 or 8 podcasts that do nothing but do dogman encounters. And you listen to these witnesses, most of them, and I don't say all of them, but most of them sound pretty damn credible. And you just go, what?
The problem with the dogman is that it goes against of biology and anatomy. I mean, you don't have upright walking animals with the neck attached.
Yeah.
Like with an urse. You don't get that with an animal with its jaw. If you have a prognathous jaw, you tend to have a lower forehead and a smaller brain. Now, the animals like Bigfoot are clearly big-brained animals, and it makes sense because the Bigfoot has a shortened face. It's not as prognathous as, say, a gorilla is. I mean, the extreme end of this scale, we're talking about bears, are primarily quite occasionally adopt a bipedal stance, and they have jaws, beings which are the perfect bipeds, it seems. We have flat faces.
Sure. I do know, looking into Dogman, it really does seem to be a transplant from the UK. I mean, it came over because that's First time I ever heard about Dogman reports, aside from not Laura Godfrey, but Miss Godfrey, by the way, that wrote the book Beast of Bray Road, was in the UK, because that was part of the UK's lore, was werewolves, and so
and that's what
kind of jumped the Atlantic the other way.
Yeah, it's an extension of the werewolf mythology.
Yeah, Linda Godfrey, by the way, was the.
So, but what do you do with these witnesses, Carl? All these witnesses. I mean, I just had a long conversation with one. I mean, the guy was extremely highly educated, and he owns property in the middle of nowhere, and he goes, well, we see him all the time. And the guy teaches survival and this, and I mean, he's a real deal. He's an outdoorsman, but he's like totally accepting of this creature as a biological creature because they see him all the time. And it just blows my mind.
I think those sorts of stories, what I do with those kinds of eyewitnesses is, I say you can't say, no, you're wrong, because we don't know for certain. All we can do is put that data aside and just wait until there's something else that corresponds with it and gives us a little bit more of an idea of what's happening.
Yeah.
Not to say it's rubbish, because that would be bad science to do that. Just put it to one side and wait until we've got some more data. That would be my approach.
It almost seems, I mean, the only way you can really classify something like that is some kind of dimensional, glitch.
And how would you prove that?
You can't. That's just it. You cannot. And it's like, you keep getting these reports of dogmen, yet there is zero physical evidence. And I mean zero. Yeah. At least with Bigfoot, we have tons of footprint casts, video, film. Coupled with eyewitness reports. With dogmen, we only have eyewitness. There is no physical evidence I've ever been able to examine.
Yeah, and that should tell us something.
Yeah, it does. But yet, the witnesses keep happening. And some of them are, I'll just tell you right now, some of them are police, sheriffs, people who, are trained in observation.
Yeah.
And they're saying, no, this thing is real. And it's
but I mean, at the same token, how many years did we believe mermaids were real? Sailors did, until we discovered what those were. Yeah, you see what I'm saying? Misidentification from afar, and there, it could be a lot of things, but I'm not discounting their. I believe they saw a dogman, but I'm just saying that it could have been a misidentification. I mean, a bear. Not saying we can't hang our head on everything being a bear, but a bear has that elongated snout like a wolf would, or like a canine almost canine-esque.
I don't think these people that's really a stretch, Joel. There's not any chance they were mistaking a bear for a dogman.
I think a lot of the time they have reported having a long tail.
Yeah, they have a long tail. They're gray in color, German Shepherd looking, high pointed ears, big fangs, blah, blah,
Do you
blah.
believe in them? Doug,
I don't have any opinion. I have no opinion.
Yeah, I mean, because I know you researched feverishly everything,
Yeah.
And I know you researched Dogman then to find out where it's from. What'd you come up with?
Just come up with there's a lot of witnesses and a lot of new witnesses. But there's no physical evidence. So I don't know.
That says to me that it's what we call Fortean Zoology again. Yeah. It's something that we can't capture because it's incapturable.
Yeah. And then, I mean, there could be maybe new information coming down the pike by scientists when they get more into this dimensional situation. And maybe these things are, just, from another dimension. I don't know.
And that would be the useful data.
I don't believe in other dimensions because, once again, it's just, hearsay and scientific mathematics, and it's not something you can put your finger on. So what do you think the best physical evidence or footage of a cryptid that would be in that category other than the Patterson-Gimlin footage? Is there something that intrigues you, Carl?
That's a good question. No, not really. To be honest with you, the Patterson Gimlin footage completely stands out. I've never come across any of the footage of a hominid anyway that's anywhere near as good as that. And for 1967, I, I do genuinely believe that if that was faked, well, if it was faked, I have no idea how they would achieve that.
Right.
You know, that makes absolutely no sense. No, but I'm not. I'd say no. I'm not aware of lots and lots of videos that prove the existence of cryptids. I would say that there probably is very little out there.
But do you, as a cryptozoologist, and I know you're a scientific cryptozoologist, but do you go down the rabbit hole and start looking at footage, or go to the Facebook groups and look at the different footages that are posted, or do you just ignore all that stuff?
No, I know. I look at it. I check it out. I've looked at hours and hours of footage like that. I just have never seen anything.
Oh, okay.
It's comparable with the Patterson Gimlin footage.
No, you're right. There isn't. Doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
I'm a business-owning, meal prepping 24/7 supermom. But who isn't nowadays? And for me, first day of school success begins at Office Depot Office Max, where everything my kids need to start the year strong is in one place. Like a laptop for my high schooler, backpacks and notebooks for the little ones, and hand sanitizer for all of the above. I can even order things for my business. It's all available in-store and online at OfficeDepot.com and at low prices all season long. Office Depot Office Max. Their business is to keep school going.
Whether your kids are taking notes or passing them, reading textbooks or sending texts, there will still be lots to see this school year. And that's why Pearl Vision wants to help you ensure they see it all. So they're covering the out-of-pocket cost or your insurance copay for your eye exam. Schedule your family's eye exams at pearlvision.com. Valid prescription required. Valid at participating locations. Restrictions apply. Taxes extra. See store for details. Ends 10/31/2021. Exams available at the independent doctors of optometry at or next to Pearl Vision. Some doctors employed by Pearl Vision.
It's completely unique, and there's a reason for that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And what
go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just going to ask him about, have you looked at any of the footage of the Tasmanian tiger?
Yeah, it's. I haven't seen anything that's really convincing yet.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of what's probably mangy dogs and foxes. A lot of that, especially in Australia. In fact, I don't think Australia is a very likely place for the survival of the Tasmanian tiger. Tasmania would be more likely, but even there is probably quite unlikely. But there is a third option. There are reports from New Guinea of a creature which the locals call Dobsenga, which is supposed to be a stripy-backed wolf-like animal that corresponds very, very closely with the thylacine. And we know that the thylacine was living in Papua New Guinea in historical times. So there's every chance that they could still be there. And I would say that's a really good play. That's what I'm talking about. That's using ecological data over cryptozoological data, because the chances of something being hidden in Papua New Guinea is much higher.
Wow. Yeah, well, I suppose it's so dense. It's not that populated, Papua New Guinea, if I'm remembering correctly. So, I mean, it would be a perfect place for it to flourish and be there.
If I had to bet my own money on where the thylacine could still be, I would say that Papua New Guinea is the most likely place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the most dangerous place to check.
Yeah, I was going to say, isn't that known as one of those places you just don't go unless you absolutely have to?
Exactly. I mean, but then again, no one said discovering new species of animals was going to be easy.
Or safe.
Indeed.
Are you willing to go on expeditions, Carl, to dangerous places if given the opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I've traveled pretty extensively anyway. I've been in places in Belize that were pretty terrifying. We had people with gangs in Belize and various things like that. I mean, I've been to other places like in Borneo. Borneo is some pretty dodgy places out there as well. Yeah, so it doesn't bother me too much. I would definitely go to Papua New Guinea and look for the thylacine. I know a lot of the CF said wouldn't, and I've had debates about this where they said, no, it's too dangerous. But like I said, we're looking for new animals, and no one said that was going to be easy.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's very true. You can't blaze new trails without going off the beaten path. That's for darn sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
So where do we go with this conversation, Joel?
Well, I'm actually fielding a couple of questions I've been given through the chat over here on Facebook from some listeners. And one of them is, and I'm not sure how far this is out of your wheelhouse, and it's a little bit of a stretch, so bear with me. Do you believe in the existence of the Kraken? And I had to look up what a Kraken is. So I remember
squid.
as a kid. And okay. And so when I did look it up, it looked a lot like what you'd done, Doug. So the Kraken is a real creature that we know about.
Now we do.
But obviously they must have had to have known about it way back when to be writing tales about the Kraken.
Yeah. I personally think that the Kraken hasn't been discovered yet. I think Architeuthis, the giant squid, it probably isn't the Kraken. I expect that it's probably something that the Kraken would prey on. It probably hints at a healthy trophic level in the sea for something larger. I personally think that the Kraken could still be an undescribed species of squid. I tend to refer to it as the Kraken squid myself. And it's something that corresponds more closely to what was reported, and both behaviorally and in terms of its morphology. I think that the Kraken is real, and I also think that it could still be undiscovered and not actually be Architeuthis ducks, but some other larger species that possibly preys upon Architeuthis.
Yeah, no, that's certainly a great answer. I had a theory once about the Kraken of basically if you take a giant squid and if you get them, if they're dying or sick or injured or eventually just, reaching the end of their life, if they come up to the surface, they're going to basically boil. Their ammonia in their blood, they're gonna be flailing and grabbing onto anything. And so let's say you took a 100-foot giant squid, 150 foot, and you get them up to the surface, and they're going to be, and a ship comes by, I can imagine that they would try to grab it.
Yeah, and we've seen that on a smaller scale anyway, with paddleboarders and the Humboldt squid, I think.
Yeah. Yep.
So we know that that's what squid do. So yeah, there's no reason why if a gigantic squid in its death throes at the surface, like you say, extremely stressed, a ship comes very close to it, I would not be surprised at all if it grabbed hold of it and the seafaring lot couldn't get it off.
How big, Doug? We have your footage, of course, to talk about. Go off of. How big are we talking? This creature? Is it truly 100 feet? How big do these giant squid get?
Oh, sure they do. Personally, once again, we don't know anything about them. We don't know anything about their life cycle. Carl, I think, agrees with me that an animal that doesn't breed can get out of its niche and get astronomical.
Absolutely.
Like an eel or a catfish. There's nothing that kills it, their normal time clock, then they can just keep growing. So, and I highly think Carl could be just as right on the Kraken being undiscovered, totally undiscovered species of squid that's just rarer and bigger. And we've never seen, look how long it took to just really get footage of a living Architeuthis, let alone a Kraken.
Yeah.
So he could be absolutely dead on right.
And I'd like to see more studies done on the specimens that we've actually got, just to see whether they are all one species or whether or not they represent more than one species.
Yeah.
The more species of squid there are of various sizes, that hints at the trophic abilities of the habitat itself are suitable for much, much larger squid.
Oh God, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all we really know about, Joel, is the morphology of what they look like. We don't know anything about their life cycle.
No.
Are they in the fossil record that anyone knows of? Giant squid?
Beaks. I think that there might be some beaks.
Yeah, beaks.
The beak is the only part that's hard enough to fossilize.
Gotcha. Okay, so they're very soft. Well, yeah, they're underwater.
It looks just like a parrot beak, only
a marine animal. So
Yeah.
bone structure is not a big thing with them because they're a marine animal. It just brings up the next point is how little do we know about our oceans? I mean, we're talking about unknown creatures on Earth with us, on land, but man, our oceans, we know more about Mars than we do at the bottom of the ocean.
That's completely true. Yeah, it's about 5%.
So okay, yeah. So let's get real specific here, Carl. So we know about approximately 1.8 million animals, correct?
Yeah, about that.
How many more do you think are yet to be discovered, small and big, combined?
Innumerous small animals, which is why a couple of years ago I had a go at coming up with my own methodology where I invented what I call micro cryptozoology, which is basically the same principles as cryptozoology but focusing on much smaller creatures, because I want to actually go out and find something. I want to show that the methodology used by cryptozoologists is viable. And the best way to do that is to look for groups of animals which are more, they're more abundant. There's a lot more smaller animals to be discovered. So I wrote a paper encouraging cryptozoologists to focus on those. But I expect there's still plenty of large species to be discovered. One of the ones that interest me the most is reports from Liberia in Africa of a small, hairy, mountainous variety of a rhinoceros. I think that has an excellent chance of being discovered. It might not actually be a rhinoceros. It might be some sort of enormous pig or something along those lines. But there is an animal of that form that's unknown and is known to the local people. And I think that has a very good chance of actually being something really interesting.
Really interesting. I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
Is it aggressive like a wild boar, or is it? What are they like?
Very little information in terms of its behavior. I think it's turned up on meat markets a couple of times. And as far as I know, there's not even any evidence to say that it definitely has horns, which means that it really could be some sort of pig, I mean, the babirusa is related to the pigs, and they very, very rhinoceros looking. But there's some animal that's roughly in that shape that corresponds quite closely with the Sumatran rhinoceros, which is a small, hairy, mountainous variety of rhinoceros. And this version in Liberia may or may not be related to that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Isn't the Sumatran rhino pretty much extinct or extinct?
Very, very near. And the interesting thing is its genera is much more closely related to the actual woolly rhinos from prehistory than it is to any of the modern rhinos. So in a way, the Sumatran rhinoceros is a woolly rhino.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A friend of mine did a documentary on the Sumatran rhino. I think the name of it was The Last Rhino. That was the name of the doc.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I wasn't even aware of this creature until just now. That's amazing.
Very good chance of discovery.
So would you say we could possibly just discover another 11 million animals?
Yeah, the problem is that scientists have got it in their heads that there isn't anything large left to discover, so they don't apply themselves properly. It's only really cryptozoologists that are doing this, and cryptozoology is young. It's only from 1959, 1960 as a methodology, so it's still in its infancy really, and it has every chance of showing some results, I think.
Sure. I think you're right though. The best chances of finding unknown species would be in the small arena, like the almost micro arena of creatures, just because it's so vast. That kingdom of insects and small creatures, even microscopic.
One that I focus on is the glowing spiders of Burma. The discoverer of the T-Rex, when he was in Burma just studying wildlife, he came across these glowing blue spiders, and they have never been proven to be to say exactly what they are. There are no bioluminescent spiders on the planet, but that doesn't mean there can't be any. And I don't agree with the idea that cryptids have to be monsters. I mean, people think of Bigfoot and the Yeti as monsters, but that's only because we don't know exactly what they are. Nobody thinks the gorilla is a monster, but they did once. And I think that really the genesis, if you like, of cryptozoology isn't something being monstrous. It's something just being unusual and ambiguous. And a glowing spider is unusual, ambiguous, and is capable of encouraging the kind of folklore which is associated with cryptozoology.
Well, sure. I mean, like you said, there's no other spider that's self-illuminating, basically.
If somebody went out there and found this spider and then publicly stated that they'd use the cryptozoological methodology to locate and find it, that would change the ball completely. That would change the game completely.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Carl, does Loch Ness have sturgeon?
No, I don't believe it does.
It does not.
The DNA evidence, there was no signature markers from that group of fish.
Because I have fished sturgeon quite a bit, and they can be a very odd looking creature, very odd looking fish, very prehistoric looking.
Yeah.
And I believe that, I think many of these sea serpents, especially inland, freshwater, are nothing more, in my own opinion, than very large sturgeon being taken as sea serpents.
Oh, there are certainly some areas around the world where that would be perfectly plausible. Yeah.
For instance, I was told for years that there was sea serpents in a lake that they call Sturgeon Lake, not too far from me. And I caught out of that lake, which is not uncommon, a 5-foot sturgeon.
Mm-hmm.
And that was even the biggest ones. I mean, there's giant ones in these lakes. And it kind of made my wheels start turning. How often are sturgeon mistaken as being a sea serpent? And I would certainly think, if I didn't know what I was fishing for and I'd seen this, and maybe not dead on, I would definitely think that it could be a creature, a sea creature.
Have you got it? The Shields Visa card gives you automatic gift card rewards. You can use the Shields Visa anywhere, and the more you use it, the more gift cards come your way to give you what you're passionate about, like a new golf club, shoes, fishing gear, or whatever makes you happy. Stop into your local Shields store or visit us online to get your own Shields Visa card. Shields Visa. Got it. Tap the banner for more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if it was in an area, a river, say, or a lake that was connected to the sea but didn't usually have sturgeon in it, and for some reason there was at this particular time, if it broke the surface, only had to be seen once, that would cause the kind of stories and the elaboration that usually happens, and folklore takes over, and next thing you know, you've got some sort of gigantic dragon-type creature.
Sure.
You know?
Sure. Exactly. Exactly.
How popular is cryptozoology getting over in the UK, Carl?
I would say it's probably less popular than it is in the States, but it's definitely bigger than it was. You're hard done by still to find people that know what the word means. I don't know how that's like in America, whether or not you've mentioned the word cryptozoology, everybody knows what it is. I don't know, but that's not the case in Britain. No.
Hmm. Well, thanks to shows like Finding Bigfoot, our popular media and shows, like Doug himself, that have put out, that have taught people and really taught us a lot about cryptozoology. Monster Quest was hugely influential for that, by the way. That's helped a lot in the States to talk about it, be more accepted. Because it used to be, if you tell somebody I look for Bigfoot, you get, where's the straitjacket? Now, if you tell somebody you look for Bigfoot, it's much more accepted than it was.
Yeah, well, we're working on something similar in Britain at the moment with the big cats. That reminds me, actually, Doug, Tim says hi.
Oh, yes, Tim. Tim is doing a really cool, very in-depth documentary. It's 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, it is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
As far as the big cat mystery goes, it's in a league of its own.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen the film and have offered, just a little bit of advice on it, but the film will be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're working on something coming up, which is about big cats, which we're hoping might be in that kind of league. It's very possible.
Is it possible? I've also thought about the big cat mystery, especially in the U.S. here, where people keep seeing these big black cats. Do you think it could be a new species? Is it possible that there's been some inbreeding or breeding between species, and there really is some kind of big black cat we don't know about? We don't have a name for it. We don't have a class for it. Do you think there's any chance of that?
There is a slim possibility that a puma and a leopard, say, would come across each other in the wild and mate. It could happen. It doesn't mean that it would happen often. I would say it probably wouldn't. These animals, big cats anyway, they tend to avoid each other. They can smell each other from a long distance away. They can tell when there's another predator like themselves about, and they just avoid it usually. That's usually the common practice for cats. But that doesn't mean that it can't have happened, and I'll say it's possible that it could have. If they were genetically inbred and the melanism might become prominent, and that might actually cause, just for the fact there aren't many of them and they keep breeding with their relatives, that might be why that there are so many black animals perhaps that are reported. But then that doesn't make sense either, because if there are so many of these big black cats out there, then why aren't they being found? They should be walking into busy places. I mean, Britain's is small. It's not like Canada.
Yeah. I'm surprised that no one has trapped one yet.
Yeah, other than Ted Noble with the puma, which was captured in Scotland in the 1980s, that is pretty much the only one, and that was called a potential hoax because they couldn't prove that it had been living wild for a prolonged period of time, going what it had eaten. So even though the animal was captured, it was still debated.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to guess how many big out-of-place cats are in the UK, would you throw a number out and be safe to say some kind of number? How many?
Less than 100.
Total.
Less than 100. Okay. Yeah, there's really not many. I don't think that there's a population which is fully sustained. I think that what we have is continuing escapees from private collectors, which are illegal pets, basically, which are being either released or they're escaping from their enclosures, and they're adding to the gene pool of the animals that are already out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I doubt very much that all the big cats that we have now that are reported are all the descendants from the animals that were released in 1976 after the wild cat.
And so it would be a game changer then if somebody would find, like, one year they find two different dens with kits.
Yeah.
That would show their breeding.
It would, yeah. That would change everything.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That really would change it all.
Even here, they deny even cougars like out east. They just deny it.
It's crazy.
Even the scientists go, no, they're not here. They're not here. There's just, once in a great while, some cattle come in from Montana or South Dakota, but they're not breeding here, and yet there are so many sites.
Yeah,
they are so elusive. The chances of them not breeding is slim on its own. It should happen at least a couple of times.
Oh yeah. If they're anything like house cats, they breed really quickly.
Horny. Joel,
yeah, exactly.
They're horny animals.
They are. I've seen where I live, and forever I've argued the DNR many times. I've seen 4 of them.
Right.
With 4 cougars.
Yeah, 4 mountain lions that we're not supposed to have. They're not supposed to be.
No, really. Even in northern Minnesota, they're not supposed to exist.
No. I've seen 4 of them.
I've seen 2 of them. One on a golf course, walking across. I remember, and I got footage of it. And I'm with my partner here, we're the producer, and we're filming early in the morning, and we're going to do a golf show.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it, and I go, hey, Mike, why is there an African lion walking across the golf course towards those hunters? And then I get my camera fired up and look through the long lens, and I can see it's a huge male cougar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On a golf course.
Yeah. The first one I saw was he was it was laying like cats do on a log of all things, with its legs dangling, sleeping.
Yeah.
Up in a tree. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing at first, and so I had 3 other people with me because we were building deer stands. And we all saw this, and we just kind of scampered out of there because we knew what it was, because we heard the tales, them being around. Well, we didn't want to disturb it. And it could care less we were there, to be honest. It knew we were there before we knew we were there.
Is there a name, Carl? Is there a name, Carl, for an animal that they won't acknowledge, but that lives there? Is there it's not cryptozoology. What would be the term?
I would just call that an out of place animal.
Yeah.
Cryptozoology is interested in that kind of thing, but that wouldn't technically be a cryptid, no. But it would be the same kind of data used to track it.
Well, but if you track the records of where we are, Doug, in Minnesota, they were here.
Oh,
cats. Sure. I mean, they were plentiful here. For elk was, as well as
you had elk, you had caribou, you had woodland caribou.
Yeah. And only because the elk hasn't been reintroduced, and other animals that they were feeding upon is probably why they're not here as much. But they do pass through because they go to Michigan. They're all the way in Michigan.
So the last animal, which
means that they.
Well, the last animal I want to talk about, Carl, is the one that you probably maybe have the most knowledge, and that's large, out-of-place reptiles.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Do you want to expound on what you know and what you don't know?
Yeah, okay. I can only really explain from my perspective of going to other countries and inquiring about this sort of thing. The most interesting report I ever came across was in Borneo in Southeast Asia. I was told, or in fact, I was guaranteed that if I go back during the right season, that our guide in Ulukumanis told us that he can guarantee that there are reticulated pythons living in the jungles that are guaranteed to be over 32 feet long.
Ooh.
He guarantees it. He reckons that if we stay there long enough, we will find a world record snake. How big do they get? That's a difficult one to answer, really. I would expect, taking into consideration genetic mutations like gigantism and just something being in the top position of the food chain in a particular area, it's perfectly plausible, in my opinion, that a snake could reach 40 feet, perhaps. Yeah.
So you're buying into a 40-foot snake. Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, 32 feet is the record at the moment for a reticulated python. So we're only talking 8 feet more.
Gosh.
My God.
Yeah, it would be surprising, but I wouldn't be too surprised.
That's huge. I mean, how big is that? Well, I'm reading that right now. Anacondas, they're a large species. Isn't there a green anaconda out there that's supposed to allegedly be super long and super huge?
The green anaconda from South America is the second longest snake in the world, but it's the longest snake. It's the largest snake by bulk. The reticulated python is longer. The anaconda, I think the maximum length so far reported is just shy of 30 feet. So you're looking at a couple of feet difference. But the anaconda is the kind of snake that lives in a medium that can support its body weight. It's in these rivers, and it makes sense to me that the anaconda should be the largest snake in the world, the longest snake in the world. So I would if I had to bet my money again, I would bet it on the anaconda approaching 40 feet, maybe not so much the reticulated python.
Carl, aren't you afraid of becoming lunch?
No, I've worked with a lot of snakes and venomous spiders and all sorts of things over the years, so no, I'm fine.
Because, I'm just reading some fact checkers. The world's largest anaconda has killed over 257 people. Yeah, it's not, you're on the menu.
How many anacondas have been killed, though, for handbags?
I understand that, yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Goes both ways.
Yeah. 2,325 animals were killed by Africa's Royal British Commandos after 37 days.
Yeah, and there's supposed to be a much larger, I think they call it the Secura Gigante, which is the bull killer. I think they're implying that there's an anaconda there that regularly kills and eats bulls. So that would be a 50-foot snake, guaranteed, if that was real.
I mean, what would stop a snake from just stopping at 40 feet? Why would it stop at 40? If it hits 40, it's going to get bigger.
Yeah, it'll keep growing as long as it lives, because all reptiles continue growing their entire life. That rate slows down, but never actually stops. So the largest baby from a clutch, say, it was extremely successful and did very well all its life, and didn't have to work too hard for its food. It might get much bigger than the norm, say, and like I say, 35 to 40 feet seems reasonable to me.
Jeez, that's still huge.
But wouldn't it be possible, Carl, to get to a snake that, I mean, they've been reported up to 100 feet long. I remember reading a report when I was a kid about one being seen from an airplane that was supposedly 100 feet long.
Yeah, there's a photograph taken of that, I think. Again, though, it's a photograph that you can't really tell what it is too much. It's obviously a snake, but it's difficult to say how big it is. You can't really judge it very well. Again, it's nothing like the Patterson Gimlin footage. That is completely unique. There's nothing even comes close.
Yeah, that's a big snake, though. I don't like snakes that much. You can have them, Carl. I'm good. I'm good.
How can people get a hold of you, Carl, and the Fortean Society over in the UK? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can get me on carlmarshall@cfz.org or through any of our Facebook groups, through the Centre for Fortean Zoology, sorry. Yeah, or you can actually get me on my own personal email address, which is carlmarshall83@live.com.
Well, Carl, thank you so much for sitting in with us. It's been a very interesting hour and a half, and we'd love to have you back on to talk more about the big snakes and cryptozoology. But we got to get out of here. So this is Joel, of course, me, and Mr. Doug Hychek. We're signing up. Until next time, guys, take care of each other, love each other. But, hey, beware those snakes. They really get big. You just never know.
Socks are the #1 most requested item at homeless shelters. Underwear second, and shirts are third. At Bombas, socks were first, made with comfortable details for everyday wearing. Then underwear, and shirts too, all designed to perfectly fit. At Bombas, every item you purchase means you're donating an essential clothing item to someone in need. One comfortable clothing item for you, one donated to someone in need. Bombas, comfort for all. Get 20% off your purchase at bombas.com/comfy.
This Labor Day, HomeDepot.com is your one-stop shop for all things decor, with up to 30% off furniture, mattresses, home decor, and kitchenware. Online, it's a Labor Day savings event. Out there, it's a whole new way to enjoy your space. Whether it's finishing touches or a total transformation, find everything you need to make your home feel more like home at HomeDepot.com/decor. Free delivery on select items $45 or more, U.S. only, valid through September 15th, 2021.